will pay you your price." With unctuous courtesy, the reptile I was now warmly nourishing said, "I do not want anything from you, my friend. For such a slight service, rest content and quiet. You shall not stop here 15 days. Tomorrow morning I will come and overhaul your bales to see what is needed." I bade him good morning, elated with the happy thought that I was soon to tread the Unyanyembe road. The reader must be made acquainted with 2 good and sufficient reasons why I was to devote all my energy to lead the expedition as quickly as possible from Bagamoyo. First, I wished to reach Ujiji before the news reached Livingstone that I was in search of him, for my impression of him was that he was a man who would try to put as much distance as possible between us, rather than make an effort to shorten it, and I should have my long journey for nothing. Second, the masika, or rainy season, would soon be on me, which, if it caught me at Bagamoyo, would prevent my departure until it was over, which meant a delay of 40 days, and exaggerated as the rains were by all men with whom I came in contact, it rained every day for 40 days without intermission. This I knew was a thing to dread, for I had my memory stored with all kinds of rainy unpleasantnesses. For instance, there was the rain of Virginia and its concomitant horrors, wetness, mildew, agues, rheumatics, and such like. Then there were the English rains, a miserable drizzle causing the blue devils. Then the rainy season of Abyssinia with the floodgates of the firmament opened, and an universal downpour of rain, enough to submerge half a continent in a few hours. Lastly, there was the pelting monsoon of India, a steady shut-in-house kind of rain. To which of these rains should I compare this dreadful masika of East Africa? Did not Burton write much about black mud in Uzaramo? Well, a country whose surface soil is called black mud in fine weather, what can it be called when 40 days' rain beat on it, and feet of pagazis and donkeys made paste of it? These were natural reflections, induced by the circumstances of the hour, and I found myself much exercised in mind in consequence. Ali bin Salim, true to his promise, visited my camp on the morrow with a very important air, and after looking at the pile of cloth bales, informed me that I must have them covered with mat bags. He said he would send a man to have them measured, but he enjoined me not to make any bargain for the bags, as he would make it all right. While awaiting with commendable patience the 140 pagazis promised by Ali bin Salim, we were all employed upon everything that thought could suggest needful for crossing the sickly maritime region, so that we might make the transit before the terrible fever could unnerve us and make us joyless. A short experience at Bagamoyo showed us what we lacked, what was superfluous and what was necessary. We were visited one night by a squall, accompanied by furious rain. I had $1,500 worth of pagazi cloth in my tent. In the morning I looked, and lo! the drilling had let in rain like a sieve, and every yard of cloth was wet. It occupied 2 days afterwards to dry the cloths, and fold them again. The drill tent was condemned, and a No. 5 hemp canvas tent at onto prepared. After which I felt convinced that my cloth bales and 1 year's ammunition were safe, and that I could defy the masika. In the hurry of departure from Zanzibar, and in my ignorance of how bales should be made, I had submitted to the better judgment and ripe experience of one Jetta, a commission merchant, to prepare my bales for carriage. Jetta did not weigh the bales as he made them up, but piled the Merikani, Kaniki, Barsati, Jamdani, Joho, Ismahili in alternate layers, and roped the same into bales. 1 or 2 pagazis came to my camp and began to chaffer. They wished to see the bales first, before they would make a final bargain. They tried to raise them up. It was of no use, and withdrew. A fine salter's spring balance was hung up, and a bale suspended to the hook. The finger indicated 105 pounds, or 3 frasilla, which was just 35 pounds or 1 frasila overweight. Upon putting all the bales to this test, I perceived that Jetta's guesswork, with all his experience, had caused considerable trouble to me. The soldiers were set to work to reopen and repack, which latter task is performed in the following manner. We cut a doti, or 4 yards of Merikani, ordinarily sold at Zanzibar for $2.75 the piece of 30 yards, and spread out. We take a piece or bolt of good Merikani, and instead of the double fold given it by the Nashua and Salem mills, we fold it into 3 parts, by which the folds have a breadth of a foot. This piece forms the first layer, and will weigh 9 pounds. The second layer consists of 6 pieces of kaniki, a blue stuff similar to the blouse stuff of France, and the blue jeans of America, though much lighter. The third layer is formed of the second piece of Merikani, the fourth of 6 more pieces of kaniki, the fifth of Merikani, the sixth of kaniki as before, and the seventh and last of Merikani. We have thus 4 pieces of Merikani, which weigh 36 pounds, and 18 pieces of kaniki, weighing also 36 pounds, making a total of 72 pounds, or a little more than 2 frasilas. The cloth is then folded singly over these layers, each corner tied to another. A bundle of coir rope is then brought, and 2 men, provided with a wooden mallet for beating and pressing the bale, proceed to tie it up with as much nicety as sailors serve down rigging. When complete, a bale is a solid mass 3 feet and a half long, a foot deep and a foot wide. Of these bales I had to convey 82 to Unyanyembe, 40 of which consisted solely of the Merikani and kaniki. The other 42 contained the Merikani and coloured cloths, which latter were to serve as honga or tribute cloths, and to engage another set of pagazis from Unyanyembe to Ujiji, and from Ujiji to the regions beyond. The 15th day asked of me by Ali bin Salim for the procuring of the pagazis passed by, and there was not the ghost of a pagazi in my camp. I sent Mabruki the bullhead to Ali bin Salim to convey my salams and express a hope that he had kept his word. In half an hour's time Mabruki returned with the reply of the Arab, that in a few days he would be able to collect them all. But, added Mabruki slyly, Bana, I don't believe him. He said aloud to himself in my hearing, why should I get the Musungu pagazis? Said Burgash did not send a letter to me, but to the Jemadar. Why should I trouble myself about him? Let Said Burgash write me a letter to that purpose, and I will procure them within 2 days. To my mind this was a time for action. Ali bin Salim should see that it was ill trifling with a white man in earnest to start. I rode down to his house to ask him what he meant. His reply was, Mabruki had told a lie as black as his face. He had never said anything approaching to such a thing. He was willing to become my slave, to become a pagazi himself. But here I stopped the voluble Ali, and informed him that I could not think of employing him in the capacity of a pagazi, neither could I find it in my heart to trouble Said Burgash to write a direct letter to him, or to require of a man who had deceived me once, as Ali bin Salim had, any service of any nature whatsoever. It would be better therefore if Ali bin Salim would stay away from my camp, and not enter it either in person or by proxy. I had lost 15 days for Jemadar Sadur at Kaole, and had never stirred from his fortified house in that village in my service, save to pay a visit, after the receipt of the Sultan's letter. Naranji, custom-house agent at Kaoye, solely under the thumb of the great Ludha Damji, had not responded to Ludha's worded request that he would procure pagazis, except with winks, nods, and promises, and it is but just stated how I fared at the hands of Ali bin Salim. In this extremity I remembered the promise made to me by the great merchant of Zanzibar, Tarya Topan, a Mohammedan Hindi,